Conditions May Apply by CinnamonPinecones. Read by Distracted by Books. Chapter 53. Lore Time. Izuku elected to ignore Recovery Girl's recommendation to spend the following day resting. Well, that's not entirely true. He was resting far more than he would be if he were actually going out on patrol, but he was still suiting up and heading out. He put on a pair of black jeans and threw on his ivy hoodie before applying some black eyeshadow a little more artfully than he usually did, conservatively enough that he wouldn't get too many people staring at him, but heavy enough that it still altered his appearance drastically. He topped the look off with a simple black cloth mask that wouldn't arouse any suspicion and set out for the library. Well, not the library, but a library. He was determined to find a video of Eraser in the UA Sports Festival, and he didn't want any pinged searches to get traced back to him. The next closest library was nearly an hour's walk away, but it was a nice, crisp autumn morning, and he didn't mind, especially with the tantalizing potential of seeing a pubescent Eraserhead eat dirt on live television on the other end of his lengthy walk. When he got to the library, bypassed the login with a little trick he'd learned a while back, and immediately started searching for video on demands of past sports festivals. He had no clue how old Shota, quote, was, but he had to be around 30-something, right? He called him a geriatric old man, but in reality, he couldn't be past 40 at the very most. So Izuku spent his day sifting through the last 2 decades of UA sports festivals. It was actually really fun. He had caught a good portion of them live, but it was entertaining to go back and see so many chart-topping heroes in their high school days. He had analysis on a great deal of them, and it was crazy to see how far they'd come since graduating. He went back a full 12 years before he saw him. He barely even peeked his head out in the first round. He didn't even look like he was trying, but it was so hard to tell because his performance was so completely uninteresting that he never got more than a glancing background shot from the cameras. He was disqualified in the second round and didn't make it to the 1v1s. Izuku was rather disappointed, but he figured that it made sense if he already knew he wanted to be an underground hero. The sports festival from 13 years ago played out in the same fashion, but his first year, 14 years ago, Kami, he was ancient, was a different story. Well, not for the first 2 rounds it wasn't. He kept a low profile, but he was putting the effort in. And when it came time for the 1v1s, Izuku's jaw dropped as he was introduced as general education's underdog, Shota Aizawa. Holy shit! He was in Gen Ed? He had so many questions, but all of them had to wait because right now he was watching a widow baby face Eraser beat the shit out of his first opponent in less than a minute. It was far less graceful than he was used to seeing from Eraser, but he totally demolished that poor other kid. He almost felt bad for them, but he found himself stifling back laughter instead. No one could figure out how he was doing it. The kid in the second round tried to float away from him on a cloud, but he just erased their quirk, sent them sprawling on their butt, and dragged them out of the ring before they could collect themselves. The other kid who was demolishing the competition was the hero now known as Present Mike, and they're the ones who made it to the final. Poor Mike didn't stand a chance. They ran around each other for a while. Mike kept trying to blast Eraser off stage, but it wasn't working. And eventually, Eraser knocked him on his butt and pinned him until Mike tapped out. He was a blushing mess. He looked so embarrassed. Izuku would have felt bad again if he hadn't just watched him win his 3rd year sports festival. Kami. This was comedy gold. How had this not gone down in history as UA's best sports festival? It was probably because they were first years. No one ever cared about the first year festivals except for recruiters. It was also probably for the best that it didn't, because Eraser would be out of a job right now if it did. You can't be a very good underground hero if you get recognized on the spot. Hmm. So, Shota Aizawa was what, 28 years old? 28 or 29? Damn. He really thought he was older than that. He looked so damn tired all the time. Poor guy wasn't even 30. He went to UA's website to try and see if he could snoop any more, but the directory was blocked by a login. Technically, the library's computer was blocked by a login. That didn't stop him. He spent the rest of the day researching coding and website building to try and find a way to bypass the login. But it was much more challenging than the library's security was. The library was about to close by the time he made it through. Ooh, looks like Eraser is a huge freaking nerd too. He had a master's in teaching with a focus on law and ethics from the University of Mustafa. And wait, was that his was that his address? Shit. Looks like he got a little further into the system than he'd meant to. Huh. Whoops. That was probably going to raise some security issues. He clicked through a bunch of other things to throw anyone watching tracking his progress off the trail of what he was looking for, and gave the computer a hard reboot before booking it out of the library. Right. Okay. He's never going back there again. Whoopsies. Maybe it was for the best, actually. If he could figure out how to get that information in an afternoon on accident, then their security needed revamping anyways. Maybe he should tell Eraser it was him tomorrow so they could stop sounding the alarms. Monday morning saw Izuku back at his usual library at his usual time. So I went and joined a dojo, like you told me to, Shinso said as he walked into the computer room. Really? How did it go? He asked back excitedly. It actually went pretty well. I wasn't put in a class full of toddlers, so that was nice. Most of the students are around our age, plus or minus a couple of years, and I've experienced winning a fight, which I might say is much more fun than losing. He sneered at him. Izuku laughed at that. That's great, Shinso. I told you, you're actually doing well. I just don't go too easy on you. You're telling me, Greenie. You're telling me. The sensei asked who taught me how to fight, and I told her a friend did. She says she wants to meet you because apparently I, quote, fight like a rabid dog. She thought I learned on the streets. He laughed. What's your sensei's name? She wants to know if she knows him. He's from around here, right? Well, shit. Oh, he's not from around here, no. And he hasn't been involved in the community much since he moved here. He's from up north, and he was more active there when he was younger. Your sensei probably doesn't know him. He lied quickly. He was getting far too good at that. The thoughts came to mind far too readily, and the words slid out of his mouth far too easily. It made him feel sick. Okay. Do you think you could make it to the dojo with me sometime? My sensei actually wants to meet you. I have a class Friday evening. You could just drop by towards the end, and then we could have dinner at my house, he asked. Izuku sat there stewing for a moment. This sounded like a bad idea. This had to go wrong somehow, right? It's his luck that's being brought into question. Surely something was going to go wrong. Come on, Midoriya. I want to see you kick someone else's butt for a change. Maybe you could fight my sensei. If you best her in combat, you can take over the dojo. I'm pretty sure that's legally binding. You could be a business owner at 13, Mito. Come on! He pleaded dramatically. The Shinsos did so much for him. There was no way this wasn't going to end in at least a minor catastrophe, but he couldn't say no. This Friday? He asked. Shinso's face lit up even the possibility that he could make it. Kami, he really couldn't say no. Yes, this Friday. I'll be there from 5 to 7, Shinso confirmed. Yeah, okay. I should be able to make it. I'll let you know for sure on Wednesday, he replied. Their day off of patrol was supposed to be Sunday this week. They were going to have to ask Eraser if they could switch it. Hey, Eraser, Ivy greeted in a theatrically awkward tone as they crested the roof. What did you do? He immediately shot back. Oh, nothing, nothing. How was work for you? Anything, interesting happen over the weekend? They replied. It was you, wasn't it? He asked with exasperation coloring his tone. What was me? I didn't do anything. But if I were to have accidentally done something, it wouldn't have caused a catastrophe, would it? They asked. Ivy, how the hell do you accidentally hack into UA's mainframe? I don't know. It was an accident, they cried. I was just snooping around and then I got bored and all of a sudden I was looking at things I shouldn't be. Really, I think it was a public service. It shouldn't be that easy to get that information. What if I actually wanted to hunt someone down? You'd all be screwed. So you're welcome, actually, they concluded and crossed their arms over their chest. Remind me to never let you and Nedzu in the same room, he responded as he scrubbed his face with his hands. The sentiment is mutual. I can't imagine a good scenario in which I end up face to face with him. They shuddered at the thought. There was something about intelligence quirks that freaked them out. You never know what they know or what they could know. It was like mind reading. Cool in theory, but not if you had as many secrets to hide as they did. Anyway, can we move this week's break night to Friday? They said quietly, just in case someone overheard. It would have to be a hell of a hearing quirk to hear them up here, and lowering their voice at that point probably wouldn't help much, but it made them feel better about it anyway. Yeah, why? He asked casually. Don't know why you bothered asking. I'm not gonna tell you, they replied as they sat down next to him and grabbed their dinner. You know my damn home address, and I can't know vaguely what you're doing on Friday, he challenged. Oh, calm down. The worst that's gonna come from this is a glitter bomb in your mailbox, they taunted. I'm moving immediately, he declared. Gonna need to set up a forwarding address anyway, dumbass. They pointed out. Ivy, I swear to. Oh, calm down. Calm down. I'm not sending you a glitter bomb. Microplastics are bad for the environment, they said in a hoity toity tone. I'm going out with a friend, if you must know, and no, I will not be elaborating further. Wow, kid, you've got friends? He asked, sounding mockingly impressed. I'll dox you. Don't test me, they shot back with no heat. I'm sure you will. Here's your pants, by the way. Did you stitch that pair up yourself? Oh, yeah, thanks. And yes, I did. Didn't feel like showing up in my boxers, they joked. But they were actually serious. The only other option they had was their school uniform and jeans, which they were getting close to growing out of. Those weren't great for mobility. Let me know if those fit right. I can get you another size if you need me to, he offered. Ivy just hummed awkwardly with a mouthful of soup in response. End of chapter.